This is the last of Article 1 of the United States Constitution that deals with the legislative branch. It needed 4 podcasts because it's where the most power was given and it is the largest article. In this podcast, we will discuss bills to law, declaring war, and electorate voting. They are very important parts of the Constitution that you should be well versed in. To start with, I wanted to tell you a story about what happened early part of our marriage when Cliff and I bought our home in West Valley City, Utah. It had lots of dirt inside and out. We dreamed together how we wanted to plant it and how we wanted it to look to raise our family there. The front lawn needed lots of landscaping. We got busy planning and budgeting and talked about it a lot with a lot of good ideas. I started on the inside and he started on the outside of the house. He pulled big weeds, he tilled, he leveled the soil. He next needed to compress the soil before he could put a seed on it. So Cliff brought home a wooden pallet from work. He tied a rope to it and plopped our 3 girls onto it, put the rope over his head, and began pulling. He walked the yard several times. The girls thought it was fun at first, but they soon wanted off. He did what any parent finds himself doing. He bribed them with an ice cream cone. By the time he finished, he was exhausted. He owed the kids not only an ice cream cone, but a full lunch at McDonald's. This lawn was well cared for every step of the way. We watered and fertilized and weeded it, and the lawn we planted 48 years ago is still beautiful Kentucky bluegrass where children play on it. And that all started with an idea. Relating this story to grassroots meetings in neighborhoods, that's where a bill starts before it turns into a law. Here we start with an idea that of needs of the people. This is discussed and passed on to many levels, the city, the county, the state, until it is decided on by that party that they belong to, the Republican Party or the Democratic Party, Independent, etc. Then the idea is taken and it is sponsored by either a representative or a senator, and they introduce it as a potential bill to the House or the Senate, and then they vote on it. If the answer is no, we don't want to support this bill, then the sponsor takes it back to the drawing board and tries another way to propose the bill. Another approach could be to wine and dine other chamber members to convince them to vote yes and then present the bill again. Or they can be sneaky and tuck it in with a more favorable bill and hope that it gets accepted through the back door. If the vote is yes, that they do want the bill to be assigned to go through as a law, then it is sent to a committee. The members of the party submitting the bill are usually on the committee together. The speaker from the House or the vice president from the Senate makes those assignments. They decide on the committee chairman and the committee members. And then the committee meets and they calendar their meetings and their offices start to do research. And when the bill is ready, it is called being marked up, like any paper that you would write up for something. You make corrections on it and you make little notations on the side, and it's called marked up. And that's what they do for the bill. They get it all ready and it is marked up, and the appointed chairman over that committee proposes the bill to the chamber that they belong to, either the House or the Senate. This committee report opens up the bill for debate. The speaker and the vice president are the referees here. They can become a very heated debate with yelling and name calling. The founders knew this would happen because it happened to them too in the Continental Congress and the constitutional writing debates. Because of this, it was written in the Constitution that any member of Congress could not be tried in a court for things that they said during these debates. The founders wanted free, open debates, even if they got heated. These debates are called floor action. Floor action. And when ended, the chamber votes again. And sometimes the House and the Senate find out that they are proposing similar bills in their own chambers. And so they compromise, and they meet. They have a conference committee that is called, and it is members of both House and Senate, and they reconcile the small differences and come up with a compromise version that will pass both the House and the Senate. Every bill has to pass both chambers before it can be sent to the president's desk. The president then has three options: sign the bill and it becomes a law, or let it die without a signature. If Congress is not in session for 10 days, he doesn't do anything and it just dies, and it has to go back and go through the whole process again. If he vetoes it, then Congress can still override his veto if they have 2/3 majority vote. Checks and balances in the Constitution are amazing. That's how we get laws established in America. Not by a king, not by a ruling group of elites, not by a dictator, but by the people. The people. This is a recap for you. Number one, the idea, and that starts at grassroots. And then number two, it's sponsored by a representative or a senator. Then it goes to committee. Then it's debated on. Then it's passed both House and Senate. Then it's sent to the president. It always starts with the people. I chose just a few of these last powers given to Congress to discuss. I felt a knowledge of them was vital for our understanding of freedom. We must discuss how laws are made, and that is one of them. The next in Congress that has power to do is to declare war. I have declared war myself several times, but my declaration was out of anger and revenge. Congress needs more level-headed approaches than that. I hate mice. I have declared war on them a few times. I have set multiple traps for one mouse, bought an enormous amount of poison for them, and commanded them to leave our home. Another declaration was aimed at an ornery old chicken. It was a rooster. I was out weeding in the garden, kneeling and bent over, happily humming, when a rooster jumped on my back. I jumped to get it off of me, and it dug its claws in even deeper to hang on. He was pecking at my ponytail, too. It hurt. I grabbed the hoe that was next to me and was swinging it around, trying to get him off of me. Finally, I ran to the fence and rubbed my back to dislodge him. He fell to the ground, and I swatted him with that hoe and sent him flying a few feet back. I was mad, real mad. I stormed in the house and got the rifle. I then marched into the living room and asked my husband where the ammo was. My husband and my son looked at each other and then asked me, what do you need the ammo for, Mom? I told them I had it with that rooster. And so my husband told me where the ammo was, and I loaded the rifle. But by the time I got out in the backyard, my husband and son had caught the rooster, and Cliff was wringing its neck. They were panicked at the thoughts of me running around shooting at the chicken and decided to take care of the problem. I was ticked off that I didn't get revenge, but I lowered the rifle and we walked back to the house. And then the rooster raised his head and squawked. We were both surprised. Cliff chopped off its head after that, and we had him for dinner. I refused to eat it. I had a hot dog. And Cliff told me that it was tough meat anyway. I am proud to announce I have won all of my wars. Only Congress can declare war against the United States to any nation. When war is declared, no citizen of the country may remain at peace with the country we are at war with. As much as they may dislike the war and love the other country, they may not aid it or give money to it or any services. If they help the enemy or hinder the success of the war, it is considered treason. If the United States have cause to complain against another country, but do not wish at once to go to war, there are other measures they can take, and one of them is letters of marque and reprisal. These are public letters directed to merchants of the United States who have been injured and the other ship from the other country refuses to make it right. So the vessels belonging to the opposing nation are taken over by the U.S. ships, enough to make up their loss. Certain rules are fixed by Congress that go along with this. If you receive a letter of marque, it is authority given to you as an individual to wage war against the enemy. During the Revolutionary War, when the country had no navy, we gave these kinds of letters to privateers so they could fit out their privately owned ships and capture British vessels without being treated as common pirates in case they got caught. The word marque means seize, and the word reprisal means destroy. I wanted to bring this up, this information, because it has been in the news lately about the altercation with our vessels in the Straits of Hormuz in the Persian Gulf. You need to understand that the letter of marque involves, because it is in effect just a few weeks ago in 2026. Congress makes rules to govern the military. They must pay, clothe, feed, and supply weapons and training to them. This is an ongoing standing military. Our country doesn't depend solely on hired soldiers, which is what our military are, because we pay them a salary. We depend on state militias as well. State militia can help defend our country. The states each have a militia, which is now known as the National Guard. They are people who are a proper age, and the states appoint officers for their militias, and Congress can call up a state militia to help defend our country, or the governor can call up the National Guard to help keep the peace in their state or to help with disasters that happen in their states, floodings, hurricanes, that type of thing. Congress has only declared war 5 times since the Constitution was in effect. In 1812 with Great Britain, because they were approaching us from the north, from Canada, trying to take over territory. Then in 1846 in Mexico, with Mexico, they declared war, and that's when we had the big battle at the Alamo. And then in 1898, we declared war against Spain. And in 1917, Germany with World War I. In 1941, Japan with World War II. There was no declaration of war for the Korean, Vietnam, Afghanistan, and Iran conflicts. These were undertaken by the president as Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. The president did this because of commitments to the United Nations. Failure of the Congress to declare war seriously complicated these wars because when you declare war, you have to declare a closing of that war as well. And so it complicated things and made it go a little bit longer because we never did have a really good closure date for any of those conflicts. But because of the affiliation with the United Nations, it had to be from the president declaring declaring it to be a conflict. In 2001, a joint Congress of House and Senate meeting together issued a new joint resolution about the legal authority of the president concerning war, and it is called the AUMF, Authorized Use of Military Force. It allows the president to target organizations or persons who aid terrorism. This is what our president is doing right now with Iran, and he has the right to do it without Congress. However, American policy has opposition towards war. We should use peaceful pressures if possible, is what the official policy is. War is an awful experience for countries to go through. The people lose loved ones and the children go to bed scared. Soldiers see things that bring nightmares to them the rest of their lives. I have slept with my husband for 55 years now, and I can still say at least once a week I am woke up from him moaning or yelling or thrashing around. At least he doesn't sit up and hit the wall anymore. Wars should be avoided, if at all possible. But there comes a time when freedom has to be fought for. Freedom costs blood. I am grateful for the military who fight for my freedoms, past and present. I have a lot of family members who have been those brave soldiers. The next power given Congress has to do with elections. The process of elections for representatives and senators is under the state power. The presidential election is under the power of Congress. Our Constitution set up an electoral college to elect our president and vice president. This process is outlined in Article 2 of the Constitution, which is about the executive branch, but it also includes Congress as part of the process, so I am including it in the Last Congress podcast. Just to be clear, the Electoral College is a process. It is not a place. And so I want to go through this process. The first thing is we start on Election Day, the first day in November. You have to be a citizen and 18 years or older to vote. It is important. Everyone votes to get an accurate number for the popular vote. Your vote matters. And that popular vote matters in a way because it's the popular vote for a specific party. And that will determine the electoral vote. The election results are counted and recounted by state political parties elected by the people of their states. And they elect electorates at their state convention that they hold during the summer of that election year. These electors are chosen people, usually party loyalists, and there are state laws about appointing these electors based on popular vote. These electors will act on the people's behalf by mirroring the winner of the state with their vote. They don't get to vote how they want to vote. They have to vote how you voted. After the Electoral College votes, they send their results to Congress. The United States House and Senate then meet together in a joint session. And that's another reason why the House big open area where they all meet is so much larger than the Senate, is because when they meet together in joint meetings, the House and the Senate, they meet at the House's room. They meet and they in this joint session, and they count each of the state's electoral votes and confirm the winner of the presidential election. So in November, people vote. In December, the electors vote. And in January, Congress counts the votes and declares the winner. Each state can have a number of electoral votes equal to its representation in Congress. The minimum is 3 votes. Those 3 votes are matching one for each senator that they have and 1 from the House. That is the minimum amount that any state would be 3 electoral votes. Now, it's not the senators or that vote or the representatives that vote. It's the electors that vote, but they do it by the same numbers of what your senators are and how many representatives you have in the House. Since the number of House members a state has is based on population, the number of elector votes each state has is different too. It ends up with heavy populated states potentially having a lot more votes. So the Constitution gives more weight to the smaller states with fewer people like Wyoming than it does to the bigger states with more people like Texas. It looks like this. Texas has 30.5 million people, and they have 1 elector for every 700,000 people. Wyoming has 576,850 people. It's a lot less than 30,000. And they have 1 elector for every 182,283. So they 1 elector for every 182,000, opposed to Texas, 1 elector for every 700,000. Results: Wyoming has more elector votes than Texas. Has more elector votes than Texas, according to population. But under this system, there are 538 elector votes across the 50 states and the Washington, D.C., the District of Columbia. A president candidate needs 270 electoral votes to win the election. That's half. Just to give you an idea of how many electoral votes there are in the states around us. I have a map. I see if I can get it there so you can see it. I have a hard time getting this to work for me. Is that working? I can't tell. Okay, maybe that'll help. Under this, let's see. Under this system, the states around us, the electoral votes are 4 for Idaho, 6 for Utah, 3 in Wyoming, and the largest is California with 54. In the rare case that no candidate gets 270 votes from the votes, the House of Representatives has to hold a contingent election. Here, each state gets a single vote for each president, for the next president. So that would be each House of Representative person there. They each get to vote. They get to vote 1 vote for their state. So they they decide among themselves and they'd vote, one vote for their state. So that would be 50 votes, and they would decide who would be the next president if they had to do that, because there weren't enough votes for 270 for anybody who was running in the election. The founders tried to look at all possibilities for voting irregularities. It is possible that a candidate can win the popular vote using the tally from every voter and still not win the election from the electoral votes. This happened in 2016 with Hillary Clinton winning the popular vote and Trump winning the electoral votes. I know it all sounds confusing, but it does work, and your vote does count towards how the electors have to vote for you. I grew up during a time when patriotism was still popular. We said the Pledge of Allegiance often at events and sang the national anthem often. We put our hands over our heart when the flag came by in parades, and we also never spoke badly of our president. We showed him respect, even if we didn't vote for him. We prayed for the president in our home, even if we didn't vote for him. This didn't mean we approved of everything he said or did what was or did. And we could be irritated by idiosyncrasies that he had, but we still respected the office he held, aware of the weight on his shoulders he carried for us. We need to make sure we are found saying truths about our president and are not influencing others, especially the children, with negative opinions that would bring people to disrespect that office. May God be with you till we meet again.